Hello, this is a continuation from the last video that I was just speaking about when I was saying I confess, and I was talking about my dad, and then I was talking about me being a dad and how I became a dad. Well, I was actually explaining how I met my twins' mom. So her uncle had fell down in the bar. I helped pick him up off the floor, and I can remember someone, I believe it was his wife, saying, "Charlie, Charlie, you okay?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I dropped my beer." And he wanted another beer. Everybody started telling him he had enough and he couldn't have no more. Me being an alcoholic myself most of my life, I immediately knew that was the wrong thing to tell him while he was intoxicated and he was out drinking and still having a good time, at least trying to. The last thing you want to tell a person that's drunk is that they can't have no more, that they're cut off. So as soon as they started telling them this, I said, no, 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 don't tell them that. Tell them that, hey, at least when you get back home, if you got more beer at home, you can have a beer when you get home, or maybe you can get a carry out, take some beer home, and drink it when you get to the house. So of course, that is what everybody did. They finished their drink, packed up everything, and they started helping Charlie out to the car. So in the meantime, I was sitting at the bar drinking. I put my drink down. I was drinking a pitcher of beer, and I put my cognac down, and I went outside and helped them get Charlie to the car. Mind you, Charlie doesn't want to leave. Charlie is irate because he wants another drink, and he's already been told he couldn't have no more. So to coax him along, I had them tell him that once they made it home, that there was drinks at home, he could have another beer or drink when he got home. So when I helped them get him in the car, I got ready to turn around and go back to the bar to go back inside. But of course, his niece had to ask me if I wanted to come to the house with them and have some drinks with them at the house, back at the house, since they didn't get to stay at the bar and enjoy themselves at the bar. So of course, as friendly as I am, very social and love people, so I'm like, yeah, sure. So let me go back into the bar, grab my pitcher of beer off the bar, and I'll be on my way. So I went back in. They put my glass in a pitcher of beer into a plastic pitcher, and I took it out, left the bar, got in the car with them, and drove down the block and went to what I found out to be later on was my twins' mother's house. And she stayed in a condo, so we got there. First thing we do is get Charlie in. By that time, we had already had a few episodes on the way home where he was trying to jump out of the car or the car was moving and things like that. And we had to restrain him and keep him in the car. So we finally got him to the house. He doesn't even get a drink. He goes upstairs. He lays down, goes to sleep. In the meantime, I'm sitting there with my twins' mom and her brother Mark. We're sitting there having a drink, and all of a sudden she starts throwing up. So when she starts throwing up, I offer to help her, but she's like, no, she's got it, she's okay. So I'm like, okay, cool. I'm not sure what happened after that, but I know that everybody ended up going to bed. Her and I believe we started making out or something. We ended up in her bedroom. Next thing you know, we were getting busy. Okay? Yes, first night, first day. Okay. I must confess. This is a confession here. Everything is. So when I sobered up early in the morning, right around 6, 7 o'clock, before the sun got up too good in the sky, I was like, okay, where am I? So I come back from my drunken stupor, come back to my senses, and I'm sitting in here in her bedroom looking around like, where am I? And then I remember, like, whoa, I met some people at the bar last night, and I'm at their house. Not only that, it was a bunch of drunk Indians, and I'm pretty sure when they wake up, they're not gonna know who the hell I am or where I came from. So right away, I started thinking, fight or flight, preservation of myself, my life. So I started to get real crafty and started thinking like, hey, I didn't have a car, so I came back to the house with them. And I asked Lynn when she woke up, that's my twin's mom. I said, hey, you want to go out for breakfast? Go to Denny's right up the road. I'm buying. So, of course, she was still kind of hungover and everything. So she's like, yeah, I guess she kind of was coming to her senses a little bit too. And was like, yeah, she got a house full of people, her dad, her uncle, her aunt, her brother, some more people. And then she's like, probably thinking the same thing I'm thinking. I need to get this fucking nigga out of my house before they wake up. Hey, I'm not trying to start no mess, but hey, I know how people think. I've heard her brother talk before, and I've heard his friends talk before, and I know how they talk. I'll say it like that. So, with knowing them later on, eventually when I got to know them, that was probably a pretty good idea for me to get out of there before anybody got up and saw me there. So after we left George Webb's, after we had breakfast, my apartment was like 6 blocks from her house, ironically. And we stopped by my apartment and hung out for 5, 6 more hours, talked, whatever. I don't remember everything else. But I did let her know that I was a supervisor at Pizza Hut. I worked most of the day, 12, 14 hours. I get off work and I go straight to the bar, close the bar down every single night. And of course, I didn't know that at the time, but she already knew that because her brother used to be there every single night. And he used to always come home and give her a report about me and what I was doing at the bar every night. But at that time, I didn't know this. So you gotta be careful, you gotta be aware wherever you're going. There's always somebody watching you, even when you don't know it. So you gotta keep your eyes open, look around, be careful, and just be aware of who's around you and who's watching you and what they're doing and who they are. So, long story short, I ended up loaning her some money. It was like, I had known her for about a month. Gave her $600. She had some bills to take care of, or rent to pay or something. And in the meantime, I was doing my thing. I was hustling. I was selling weed on the side because I was a big pot connoisseur at that time. And she asked me for about $600, I believe it was. I let her, maybe $400. I let her borrow it. And then it turns out that she didn't need it. So she asked me if I wanted it back. I said, don't worry about it, keep it. This is probably maybe a couple of months down the road. I'd end up moving in with her. Got busted with a quarter pound of marijuana. Cops took all my money out of my pocket. My paycheck, I just got paid. Money I had in my pocket before that. And it was a nice amount of cash, okay? About $900, $940, something like that. My rent back then was like $600. So I had my rent money until the cops took it, confiscated it for drug money. And that's a whole nother story also. But from the moment, when I think about it now, from the moment I met her, the time we started having sex and hooking up, and it's just like things were bad back then. I didn't see the the red flags and things like that back then, because I was always high and I was always drunk when I got off work. That's what I did. That was my downtime. That's the way I celebrated me and my time. Not too long after that, she got pregnant. So when she got pregnant, right away I knew the right thing to do was to get a ring and propose to her to get married. So at that time, when I moved in with her, from the day when I first had loaned her $400 or whatever it was, and told her to keep it, from that moment on, after I moved in with her, probably a month later, I was giving her my paycheck like every single time I got paid. Every 2 weeks at that time. Then after that, I went to Boston Market. After that, I went to Speedway Super America as assistant manager, and I was getting paid every week then. So throughout those 3 jobs in 18 months, from the time I met her, I was signing my checks over and giving them to her. And the only thing I was taking from her was the change. So if my check was $5.50, I took $50. If my check was $4.75, I took $75. If it was $3.35, I took $35. So you get the drift. So that means I basically just had minimum amount of money to buy me a case of beer for the week and cigarettes to smoke throughout the week, which she told me after a while that she can get them on the reservation for like $2.10 a pack back then. They were like 3 something a pack back then here. And she was basically letting me know I didn't need to buy cigarettes anymore because that was a waste of money, and she would buy them on the reservation and I can get cigarettes from her. So I was like, fine. I didn't have enough money anyway to buy cigarettes anyway. She would get them about $20 or $21 a carton on the reservation. And I need to put gas in my car. I had bought a 1980 Pontiac Catalina from her cousin John, and it was a big gas guzzler, so I basically had money every week just to put gas in my car and to buy a case of beer. So had I not been, when I met her, got back into my side hustle and started selling pot, I would have had totally been broke every single week. When I got paid, I would have never been able to make it through the week, far as having gas money, money to go out, to drink, kick it, do whatever I wanted to do, because I was giving her my entire check. Still to this day, she'll sit there and deny it. But long story short, when I met her, she had $9,000 in the bank. If you go about checking the records and bank stubs and stuff like that, you'll see when I left 18 months later, she had over $30,000 in the bank. You do the math. You take her money, all the money that she made and all the money I gave her, and you add it all up, and you see she didn't have to spend not one dime of her paycheck the entire time that I was with her. She got to save every single dollar that she made. Okay? I said that to say this. I didn't have any money at that time because I was signing my checks over to her and I wasn't into my side hustle yet. So I wanted to do right by her. So I talked to her mom. I told her mom once her mom knew she was pregnant. I told her mom, hey, I was brought up in the church. I was brought up the right way. I know that we're supposed to get married. And I told her mom, I went and bought a ring from Northridge Mall. It was like $40. I had $50 when I went in there. I got it. Engagement ring was $40. Wasn't a whole lot. Wasn't much or anything. I was young. I was poor. Didn't have anything yet. So I remember telling her mom, and her mom was all excited. She was happy and everything. And this was our secret, because I waited till the day she went into labor. The day my twins was born, November 21st, and I got down on one knee when she was at the hospital, about ready to give birth to my kids, and I proposed to her, and I put the engagement ring on her finger. She accepted. course, I didn't know until months later down the road that she really didn't care for the ring. She's a materialistic kind of a woman. It was too cheap. So she didn't want it. She didn't appreciate it, even though she kept it and still has it to this very day. Just probably to mock me. So, I felt like I was a young man. I was doing the right thing at that time, just getting married to my kid's mom, regardless of whether I knew how to be a man, how to run a household. I didn't know anything about how to spend money, how to balance a checkbook, or anything like that. And she did. She was great with finances. She had purchased her condo at a pretty low cost.